Hello, and welcome to the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. I'm your host, Karen Yankovich, and the topic today is one that I lived. And a lot of these topics are obviously, but this is one that took me a little by surprise when my time came. And that is designing your ideal work-life rhythm, right? So, I talk a lot about stepping into our next chapter with confidence and with power and with money, right? And creating a really lucrative next chapter with a cup that's overflowing so that our cup is full and we can serve from the overflow and all, beautiful things that of course I want for myself as well. And a bunch of years ago, I don't know, 10 more maybe years ago, I stepped into my next chapter, like jumped off a cliff. I had a full-time job with a paycheck. I was running my business on the side. The reality is I had a job that allowed me a lot of free time. I had time off. I had a lot of vacation time. I was able to fly around the world speaking and use vacation time to do it. So I was able to run my business while I was working for probably longer than most people can. But then the day came, right, where it was time to fly, right? And see if I could fly. I mentioned before I was a single mom with 4 kids. My kids were all graduated by then. They were all at least in college. I'm still supporting them to some degree, right? But it wasn't like I had kids home that I was making dinner for every night. But still, I was covering things like health benefits and car insurance and cell phones and easy passes, right? And I say, okay, I'm walking away from my paycheck, which was a nice paycheck, onto my own, right? Now, I made that choice. You may be listening and not have had that choice. Maybe you got laid off during the pandemic. Maybe you went back after the pandemic and you decided this isn't for you, right? And you decided to shift things and what you shifted to isn't really working, right? So I get that I made this choice consciously, and that if you're listening, that might not be the choice you made, but yet you're still here planning your next chapter, right? I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that, because here's the thing. In 2024, according to Business Insider and AARP, more than 56% of women over 50 reported rethinking their career path after a layoff or a corporate shakeup, or just plain, I don't want to be here anymore, right? 56% of women over 50. And that's what reported, right? Like, who knows how many there really are, right? How many there really are. So if that's you, if you found yourself kind of like on a pause, whether you asked for that pause or not, I want you to know that I'm telling you this because I want you to know that you're not alone. I've worked with so many women who were either let go or were let go, only to realize later that it was kind of like a sacred interruption. I don't know about you, but for me, my brain is always on, right? My brain is always on. So I'm always thinking and trying to figure out what my next step is, and organizing and planning for it and strategizing for it. And I don't often enough, anyway, take a step back and realize what a sacred interruption that was in my life. The redirection, right? Like a divine detour, right? Because it was the first time probably in my entire life that I actually chose how I wanted to spend my day. So kind of given, kind of a permission slip to create the day and the life that I wanted. So I want to show you today, how to turn that pink slip into a permission slip, or, to turn that, when you're taking that next step, how to do it confidently, and how it can and should and will be something even better. This moment is the launch pad to something even better. I'm going to walk you through a blueprint, right? Because I go back to my left brain here. I'm going to take you I'm going to talk a little bit how to take back your time, how to rebuild your income, and how to create this business that fits beautifully around your life, not the other way around. That was really important to me. That was why I did what I did. I didn't have that choice, let me just say that I didn't know that I had that choice when my kids were young. I was married and, divorced eventually. So that obviously wasn't going well, and not agreeing on a lot of things. And often I was the one bringing in the income. Very often I was the one, bringing in the income. So I didn't really feel like I had a choice. I was leaving my house for a lot of years. I was working, if you know New Jersey at all, I lived in Ringwood. I worked in Secaucus and had to be in Secaucus at 9:00 every morning. It was crazy. This was when my kids were little. I had to leave my house at like 7:00 to be at work at 9:00. I had to absolutely, I was working for the phone company at the time. You can go back and check LinkedIn. You can see those years, right? Where there's very little flexibility. And I got out at 5 and I was getting home at like 6:30 and then I had 4 kids. You know what I mean? So it was crazy, 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 crazy pants. So I didn't know that I had an option. I made it work, right? I made it work. It's all good. I'm not looking back with regrets, but I am grateful for you. If you're that in that stage of your life, you're in that era where you're raising your kids and working, you have a lot more options now than I had, mainly because of social media and because of online marketing and virtual meetings and things like that. That being said, and by the way, I'll send you back to last week's episode 322, where I gave you 50 ideas to build a business from your paycheck talents, right? So there's options now that I didn't think I had. So when I consciously made the decision to leave my paycheck job to do the work that I do now full time, I had like a app on my phone that counted the days, and I gave myself like 2.5 years. Like I didn't say I'm doing this by Friday, right? I will say I did it in half the time, not just because I reached a point where I just had to make a choice, but it's not like I tried to do it overnight. I gave myself plenty of time. And I had all these visions of what my life was going to look like then, right? I did it because I didn't have the flexibility when my kids were little. I wanted to spend the time that I could with my grandkids. The date that I'm recording this, yesterday, I got a call from my sister who said, "Hey, I'm taking mom and her daughter to lunch. Why don't you pick up one of my granddaughters, pick up your granddaughter and meet us?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm done." So I rearranged my day. I was able to do that. I never would have been able to do that in any of the paycheck jobs I had, right? But I was able to say yes and rearrange my day and have a really nice long lunch with my 4-year-old granddaughter, my mom, my sister, and my niece, right? It was really nice. I didn't have that option before, right? So that was the reason why I wanted to do that. I wanted to build a business that was around my life. But here's the thing. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know, like I thought I knew how to do that. I envisioned, waking up in the morning and having coffee and doing yoga and, like taking long walks and all the things, right? Forget it. I was like I chained myself to my desk. Nobody else chained me to my desk. I chained myself to my desk. Yoga, forget it. Like walks wasn't happening. I was barely showered by 6, 7 o'clock at night sometimes because, I was building my brand business. I was a nervous wreck, right? I worked a lot. But here's the thing. I still sometimes have days like that where I call them like power days. I need a power day. I need to get way ahead, or I need to get a bunch of podcast episodes recorded, or I need whatever it is, right? I sometimes have power days. So I still have days that I do that, but it's not every day. And you might find me doing that on a Saturday or Sunday. If I don't have any plans on a Saturday or Sunday, I might call power day and just sit at my desk and power through and just get way ahead on a lot of things. Because if I'm way ahead on a lot of things, I can say yes to phone calls, right? When I get a phone call that says, "Hey, you want to meet us for lunch today?" But in the beginning, I didn't do that. I didn't know how to do that. In fact, then, well, we don't even get into the pandemic and how we had to relearn how to do all that, right? So I wanted to give you that from a little bit of a reality check, right? Because I thought I was going to have this beautiful, relaxing life, and instead I worked myself to the bone. I know better, right? And you don't have to do that, but understand that sometimes you might find days where you want to do that. So I want to get honest a little bit about what that transition feels like, because you're probably thinking things like, am I going to run out of money? Am I too old to do this? I mean, maybe I should have pivoted 10 years ago. Do I really have what it takes to go out on my own, right? So I want to bust a couple of myths here. And I really wanted this episode to have a lot of facts in it, because I just didn't want to be out here just telling you this is my opinion, because I've done this. I researched this because I want you to know that, for example, women over 50 are the fastest growing group of new entrepreneurs in America. How cool is that, right? How cool is that? And 68% of women say they wish they built a life with balance before the burnout forced them to. How about that? Right? 68% of women wished they'd built a life with balance before burnout forced them to. So this isn't just about income, right? It's about your impact. It's about your influence. It's about intentionality on how you want to spend your day, the imprint you want to put on the world, the imprint you want to put on your family. And it's about creating a career that finally feels like it was designed for you and your rhythm and your values and your peace. Hold on. If you're watching this, where the heck is, if you're watching this on the YouTube video, if you're not, you should be. Here's my little peace sign. Like peace is a big word in my life, right? It's about peace, right? It's about peace. I remember a client that I had that came to me. She was thinking about leaving, and her company offered her a severance package, and she was so nervous about it because no matter how much money they give you, you can run out of money, right? Like, let's get real. We live in it. It's expensive to live in the world in 2025. But we quickly got clear on a clarity driven consulting offer, like the high ticket offer that I talk about a lot, right? We got clear on that. We got clear on what a $10,000 client looks like for her. And one thing that was important to her was she wanted Fridays off. She completely blocked Fridays every week. So as we created this work-life balance, it allowed her to kind of turn that, like the plan that we created helped eliminate the panic of what the heck am I going to do? We created an offer. We created a clear path to be able to get a client for that offer, but we built it around a plan to have the life she wants to have, right? She wanted to have Fridays off. I get that. I block Fridays on my calendar a lot. Now, sometimes I'll open them if I don't have anything going on or I have a lot of work stuff going on where I want to take extra calls or whatever, I'll open my calendar, but I block Fridays on my calendar too, for that same reason. I want the option to have long weekends whenever I want, right? Because I get to, and you get to. How cool is that? All right. So let's talk a little bit about the time, right? These are you need to really get clear on what your non-negotiables are. You get to kind of reclaim the rhythm of your life, the days and the weeks and the hours that you spend and how you spend them, right? So before, like if you are in our She's Linked Up program, which you should check out at sheslinkedup.com, because we have amazing bonuses going on right now. And we always, we've redesigned the whole program. So check it out at sheslinkedup.com. We would love to have you. One of the things that we do every year in the fall of every year, and if you join now, you can, this is being live in August of 2025. If you're listening to this while it's live, it just got released, we'll be doing it in a couple of months. I think in November, we do this, October, November, we do a business planning session, like a free virtual retreat that is only available to all of our She's Linked Up family, our She's Linked Up community. And when we create this, we're like planning, in this case, it'll be 2026, right? If you join the program today, you immediately get access to 2025, right? So this is a training that is always in our She's Linked Up program. We just update it every year as we do the new live training each year, right? As we do the new retreat. But the very first thing we do is we have you map out what you want to do with your personal time. Do you want Tuesdays with your grandkids? Do you want one no meeting day? Like Michael Hyatt calls them backstage day. Do you want one backstage day where you don't have to be ready for a camera or a Zoom call, right? 1 week per quarter, maybe blocked off for CEO time or rest or travel, right? What do you want travel to look like? These are the moments that we have this unique ability to have that people with a paycheck don't always have. And these are the things that nourish our soul, nourish our creativity, and we get to have them come first. Okay. So here's like a little practical exercise for you. I want you to take a blank calendar, and I want you to, before you put a thing on your calendar, block your personal time. What you might want to do, if you use Google Calendar, you may want to create like a personal calendar, but I want you to make sure that your personal calendar, make it a different color, right? So you can see how much personal time you have in each day. But make sure that your personal calendar also blocks out your business calendar, right? So that people can't book with you, like if you have Calendly or something, right? So you want to make sure that your personal calendar, even though it's a separate calendar, there's an option to have it block off your business calendar. But I want you to make it a different color, whatever your favorite color is, and block out those yes moments. Okay. Block out those time with your grandkids, the Fridays, the once a month massage, the once a month 4-day weekend, spa retreat, the once a year, 2-week, whatever that is, right? Block that and then build your business around that space. You did not leave your paycheck, your corporate job, your security to recreate the same burnout, but you're in your pajamas, right? So think for a second. I have a little task for you here. I want you to come up with one tiny daily ritual that would feel so luxurious if you never had to compromise it again. What one tiny daily ritual would feel luxurious if you never had to compromise it again? Let that be your guide as you're creating this personal time calendar. Now that we've mapped out your time, let's talk about reclaiming that money, because I want you to be a wealthy woman, right? I want you to be reclaiming that money, and I want you to do it strategically so that, it becomes inevitable. My strategy requires 3 pillars to rebuilding income streams in this freedom aligned way that we're talking about here today, right? The first thing you need to do is create your signature offer. Create your 10K offer, your 20K offer. Let me just tell you something. If you are new to creating a business, right, and you are thinking, well, I need to have a group program, and I need to have this, I need to have like a $47 thing and a $97 thing and a $197 thing. Do you know how many sales pages and emails and confirmation emails and content delivery emails you need to do that to make $47, right? My opinion, create a big, fat, juicy, high ticket offer. Build that masterpiece, not a menu of offers, right? Build a masterpiece, not a menu, and create a very specific plan to land that client. You can always expand later, right? You can always expand later, but starting with one powerful offer helps you move faster with more confidence. And when you do want to expand, and all those dozens of sales pages and delivery emails and confirmation emails all have to get done, you can pay people to do that. You don't have to learn how to do that stuff, right? You can just stay in your zone of genius, create a masterpiece offer, and move forward. The second piece of the pillar is relationship-based marketing. Honestly, if I ask like 100 people where their biggest opportunity came from, 99, or if not more, out of that 100 is going to tell me from a referral. They're not going to say from a tweet. They're not. I mean, I use social media, but social media warms you up. It helps you get to know me, and then there's a get to know you process. But the big, fat, juicy contact tracks comes from people that know people. What this means is you already know somebody who can hire you or refer you. So start reactivating those connections. It's so funny because I hear so much when I talk about LinkedIn strategy with people, like, what is, like I need to have 100 connections, or I need to build new connections, and I need to put out all this content. And I agree with all that. You do need to do that stuff. This big, not this big, right? A couple connections a week, a couple posts a week. But what they skip over is reactivating, re-engaging the connections you already have, past colleagues, partners. Often they're even LinkedIn like lurkers, right? People that have been silently watching you. I promise you they are there. So go into your LinkedIn network, your existing network, and reach out to a couple people. Hey, Mary, remember, God, can you believe it's been like 6 years since that conference we met at? I still think about that lobster roll we had, or whatever, right? I see maybe you changed jobs. I'd love to catch up and reconnect. Now, obviously, do this judiciously. I don't want you to waste a lot of time on this. Maybe you just loved Mary and you want to talk to her. But if you didn't love Mary, you don't have to reach out to her unless you think there's a big opportunity there, right? So be strategic about how you're reaching out, even if you're not sure if there's a possibility. Because remember, we're not necessarily looking for them to hire us. We're going to say, here's what I'm up to. Who do you know? Powerful, powerful, powerful statement. And then the third pillar, which kind of is a combination of the first and second pillar, is focus on those high ticket clients. It's so much easier to close one 10K client, right, than 10 $1,000 clients. It is, I promise you. Because if you're thinking you're not worth 10K, can we just pause for a second? And let me just tell you that according to the Harvard Business Review, women consultants earn 20% less than men on average. Hello, let's close that gap, right? I want you to think about not just your monthly salary, right? What your company paid you the last job that you had, or something that you think is comparable to what you're doing now, right? But remember, there's something called a loaded labor rate. If you got paid $100 an hour, you probably cost that company $175 an hour or $150 an hour, okay? So that's where you come off at even, right? And remember, they're paying you for 40 hours, right? So most of your clients are not going to do that. You're probably not going to work 40 hours anymore, right? At least if you're doing this right. And a lot of those hours are spent behind, you're getting paid then for every hour you worked. All the marketing you do has to get paid. You have to get paid for that somehow, right? So, and all your expenses have to get covered, which wasn't the case when you had necessarily when you had a paycheck. So if you were making that $100K an hour, let's call it $150 loaded labor rate, you need to start at probably double that, $300 an hour, right? To just break even with when you had a salary, which if you just wanted to break even, why are you doing this? Right. So that's your baseline consulting rate, not your ceiling. Okay. So that's what I want you to own. Price it for the impact it gives. I never, ever want you to say I'm $300 an hour or I'm $500 an hour. Honestly, the impact is what people purchase from you, not the number of hours. Okay. So, then what you need to do now that you've got, you're clear on your offer, you're building some reconnections, you're starting to reconnect with your network, and you're clear on, the fact that your focus is on getting this high ticket offer. Now let's build the container that supports this new business lifestyle. You don't have to follow the old rules, right? Of long draining retainer clients or chaotic client calendars and schedules. You get to choose. There's a couple different structures here that I want to talk about quickly. You can work for people on a project, or you can work for people on a retainer, right? Retainers create that consistent income that we kind of like, that consistent income as entrepreneurs. And it's simpler planning, right? It helps you build that predictability into your business. However, short-term project works can give you white space where those retainer clients don't, right? So those are two options. Like, think about what works best for you. Think also like, if you are going to serve multiple clients, same thing, take the same high ticket thing, but if there's a couple at once, what does that look like? Is it a monthly mastermind? Is it a 90-day cohort? Like, what are you doing? What kind of impact are you giving it? But remember, keeping the spaciousness in your calendar, making that personal time non-negotiable. And my absolute favorite, and what we teach a lot on in our She's Linked Up program, our VIP days or intensives, deep dives, 1-day deep dive. Listen, we live in a world where we want everything yesterday, right? So yes, if you're a coach and you or a consultant and you're going to work with somebody on a 3-day package, a 3-month package, by all means, create a 3-month package. And let's just say it's $5,000 a month. So it's a $15,000 package. Okay. Think about your client, right? Who's got this budget for this? And if you think about the conversation where you say, okay, here's the deal. The 3-month, the 90-day package that I have is a $15K package, but we have an option. And one of the options is we can front load that 3 months with a full day intensive. And the beauty of a full day intensive is we're going to be able to knock out in one day what might have taken us 4 to 6 weeks to get to. We still have 3 full months, right? We're still going to do all that, but we're going to jump in on day 1 at a much higher level because of this full day intensive on the front end. So your options are, option A is we can spend 3 months together and it's $15K. Option B is we can spend a full day intensive and then we still have 3 months together. And the investment for that is $25K. And then zip your mouth and just shut up, right? Because that's why I love these VIP days. Building VIP days, either single or into other packages, is a great way to quickly boost your income. Okay, it's a great way to quickly boost your income, and you don't need 50 sales pages to do it, right? And what the most beautiful thing about it is, it can serve your life, not the other way around, right? Now, in my world, the VIP day is never just a day, right? Like, there's pre-calls and post-calls, and it's usually a month, right? But it's still built around that 1-day intensive. Okay. So if you need Wednesdays off, you're never going to do a VIP day on a Wednesday. If you need 3-day weekends for rest, you can design these VIP days for that. Whether, again, it's retainers or projects or a group or these VIP days, you can design this around your non-negotiable free time. So I'm going to take a deep breath here for a second. Breathe this in for a minute. And I want you to know that you now have permission, full, unapologetic, heart-centered permission to build a business that loves your life as much as you do, right? We talked a lot about a consulting business. It works beautifully for a consulting business, but if you've got other kinds of businesses, I'm here to chat about that. I'd love to hear that. Anchor in your yes moments. This is the blueprint, right? Anchor in those yes moments. Build in that signature high impact offer. Lean into the people you already know, into your existing network, and design flexible client structures that feel like freedom. Okay? So I have a little bit of homework for you now. Listen to this again if you need to. I want you to get out a journal. If you're driving, you can do it later. And I want you to answer this question for me. What is your non-negotiable yes? Is it a family dinner? Is it a beach day? Is it volunteering? And how will you build your business around it? I want you to write that down. And then, okay, for extra credit, I don't know what I'm grading you on, but for extra credit, go on LinkedIn, post it on LinkedIn and tag me and, drop in the episode, KarenYankovich.com/323, I think this is, and tag me because then I get to be your first cheerleader for this, right? And if you want my eyes on your plan, whether you're just starting or you're restructuring, book a clarity call, right? At KarenYankovich.com/call. Let's make sure that your freedom plan pays you well. I want there to be more wealthy women in the world. And I'm here for that. I feel like that's what I can contribute to this world. Let's make you one of them, right? Big love to you, my friend. Your next chapter is not just about the income. It's about the impact, the influence, the legacy, the ease, and your soul's favorite moment. Go claim them. I'll see you back here next week for another episode of the Good Girls Get Rich podcast.